累计治愈出院病例77279例。累计
cases cured and discharged from hospitals is 77,279. For fatal cases, 3,333. For confirmed cases reported, 81,802. For suspected cases remaining, 83. In total, for close contacts traced, 715,854. Close contacts still under medical observation numbered 13,334. For Hubei, yesterday, there's no new confirmed case or suspected case or remaining suspect case. For new cured and discharged cases, 69. And one new fatal case, all of them in Wuhan. For remaining confirmed cases, the number is 448, including 445 in Wuhan. Among these cases, there are 158 severe cases, including 155 in Wuhan. In total, the number of cured and discharged from hospital cases, 64,142, including 46,991 in Wuhan. In total, the fatal cases numbered 3,213, including 2,572 in Wuhan. And in total, there are 67,803 confirmed cases, including 50,008 in Wuhan. All the provinces, municipalities, and autonomous regions reported that for newly increased asymptomatic infection cases, 137, including 102 overseas imported, and 11 cases were transferred to confirmed cases. All of them were overseas imported. For close contacts removed from medical observation, 64, including 8 of the overseas imported. And for close contact, for the asymptomatic infection still under medical observation, 1,095, including 358 overseas imported. In total, there are 1,355 cases reported from Hong Kong, Macau, and the Taiwan region, including 935 from Hong Kong SAR, 44 from Macau SAR, and 376 from the Taiwan region. Yesterday, now we have less than 500 indigenous confirmed cases, and for 7 days in a row, the close contacts under medical observation is on the drop. And for asymptomatic infection, we found the proportion of overseas importation is increasing, and the related sporadic cases is also rising. Now, as Wuhan has ended the lockdown, we will see increased flow of people, and we need to identify the key risk areas or risk points to strengthen the overseeing. Now we will have the Q&A. Please focus on today's topic and put forward your questions. Please first identify yourself. Now the floor is open. First question. We will have the journalist from the right, the front row, the second row, with CCTV. Thank you. Premier Li Keqiang specifically requires that while ensuring the quality, we should strengthen or increase the production. So what are the measures adopted by MMIIT to respond to this request? We will have DG Huang to take the question. Thank you for your question. After the outbreak, the need for the medical supplies is is increasing very rapidly, and also it was the spring holiday or festival break, and causing great pressure on production. The MIIT, together with the State Council's medical supplies leadership team, have adopted various measures. We have set up 4 systems in this regard to ensure the production and the supply of the relevant products. The 4 systems include the coordinated command system. Under the overall arrangement of the central government, the MRIT took the lead, and we had set up a task force to ensure the supply of the materials. This is a mechanism participated by a dozen of government ministries and agencies. Second, the sound coordination mechanism. The central and the local governments have the daily communication to ensure the adequate supply of the various materials. In particular, for Hubei province, we have the guarantee mechanism every 3 days to ensure the adequate supply. And third, the financial mechanism to ensure the provision. We have provided financial initiatives and or incentives and encourage the companies to produce more. This is a coordinated approach throughout the value chain. We've also dispatched dedicated personnel to the manufacturers so that the outstanding problems in raw material supply and transportation can be well addressed. Also, we have organized the ad hoc stockpiling of the medical supplies.
We also established a platform for resource allocation. When the prevention control efforts was at the most crucial timing, every 3 hours we did some recalculation and reallocation. We have prioritized the needs of Wuhan, Hubei province, and we give dual and twin consideration to the needs in other provinces. As of 12th of March, we have accumulatively allocated 8 million plus pieces of protective suits, the coveralls, the goggles, and the masks, 1.56 million, hand sensitizer, 3.65 million tons, and 6,000 plus negative pressure ambulances. Respirators, more than 70,000, supporting the prevention and control in Hubei province and the country as a whole. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the 4th row on the left side. With Hong Kong, China review. In the context of supporting the world with medical supplies, what is the production capacity of protective units, suits, and infrared temperature monitors? While we support other countries, can we also meet domestic needs? I'd like to ask DDG Cao Xuejun to take the question. Thank you for your question. We've been mobilizing businesses to operate at full capacity, expanding capacity, improve the review and approval for eligible manufacturers, supported the linchpins on raw material supply and logistics, goggles, protective units, masks, and other medical supplies have seen a rapid increase of their production capacity. As of April the 5th, coveralls per day production reached a daily of 15,000 units. Masks and goggles reached a daily capacity of 290,000. Infrared temperature monitors, 10,000. And the handheld temperature monitor, 400,000 units per day. As the pandemic is spreading globally, there is still a huge need for medical supplies. the protective units, protective masks, goggles, respirators, and the infrared temperature monitors can meet domestic needs. Enterprises have been operating at full capacity to expand exportation. We will further improve the coordination along the supply chain, guide enterprises to restructure their supply and production, guide enterprises to implement relevant manufacturing standards, and ensure good quality of products, thus promoting the prevention control domestically and internationally. Thank you. Next question, please, journalist from the first row on the right side.
China TV journalist. The global epidemic situation is constantly rising, and China's medical supplies are being exported in large quantities. Can Chinese supplies capacity keep up with rising demand for foreign orders? Thank you.
好，请把问题翻译一下。
中阿卫视的记者，现在全球的疫情不断攀升，中国的医疗物资在大量供给出口。那请问，在这种情况下，中国的物资供应能力能不能跟得上不断攀升的国外订单需求？
好，我们请黄立斌先生。
I'd like to ask DG Huang Libin to take the question. Thank you for your question. China is a major producer of medical supplies. In response to the needs of pandemic prevention and control, respirators, protective suits, and protective masks have seen a recovering manufacturing capacity. We've also expanded production capacity, thus provided great support to the prevention and control efforts. On top of ensuring domestic supply, Chinese manufacturers have worked tirelessly and around the clock and pursued their best to support global efforts. According to the current global situation of rapid spreading, the domestic manufacturers have also been accordingly improving our production capacity. However, there is always a limit. Besides, there are different constraints on allowing us to bring out the full potential. For example, global media is very much concerned about manufacturing of respirators. Globalized key components cannot be supplied to us, and our production capacity is less than 1/5 of the global total. Even when the key components are supplied, we by the global needs, it is a mission impossible. Another example is that the global supply of protective suits are also impeded by different customary factors and different habits of use. The daily production of protective units have exceeded 1.5 million pieces. Theoretically, this number is okay to meet global needs. However, these protective units have been manufactured in accordance with China, CE, and American and Japan standards of production. So there might be some variances with the quality requirements of the imported countries. Ministry of Commerce, GACC, and CFDA and the Market Inspection and Regulation Authority have jointly adopted requirements requiring the test units that are for exportation must first acquire the certification of CFDA. They are also up to the standards of international authorities. Our epidemic prevention control is towards the positive. While the pandemic is spreading rapidly across the world, we are willing to pursue at our best and provide assistance to other countries. We encourage manufacturers to use high-quality Chinese products to serve the international community. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the fifth row on the right, on the left side. CCTV financial channel during the epidemic response, manufacturers have supported medical supplies, but there were some weaknesses. Previously, MIIT expressed an opinion to make up for these shortfalls. What might be the specific measures adopted to make up for the shortfalls? I'd like to ask DDG Chen Kelong to take the question. Thank you for your question. Medical equipment involve a long industry chain and intensive technological content. Since 2014, MIIT and National Health Commission has established a joint mechanism to promote the scaling of medical devices, improve the system, and improve the technical content. In 2019, the industry revenue was 31.7 billion RMB and above. CT Machine, Shenzhen Mairui, Shandong Xinhua, Beijing Lepu, and some other domestic companies have moved into the top rank of 50 top-notch international manufacturers. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, manufacturers in China have provided a total of 115,000 units to China. 38 types of 70,000 plus units of medical devices have been provided to Hubei, including some ECG monitors and other sophisticated devices, providing a consolidated base of medical supply. However, during the process, we've also identified some of the weaknesses. For example, ECMO and other cutting-edge sophisticated machineries, invasive respirators, and short supply. The performance of certain devices need further improvement.
March the 2nd, when President Xi Jinping was inspecting the scientific and technological R&D aspects, he emphasized the importance to overcome the gap and strengthen the solutions to the key technologies or bottlenecks and realize self-independence on such manufacturing and development. So we are working together with the experts to identify the specific weaknesses and gaps and overcome the technical bottlenecks. We are making every effort to overcome such bottlenecks. Thank you. Let's continue. On the left, on the third row, the third lady reporter, please. With the cover. The question is for Sinopharm. We know that Sinopharm is an important stakeholder in the supply of medical products. So compared with previous initiatives or efforts, what are the unique features of the pandemic response? Thank you. We will have Chairman Liu to take the question. Thank you. And previously, the outbreaks only involved some population or some people, while this one involves everyone in the society. And also, compared with the previous outbreaks, the need for medical supplies is huge than the previous outbreaks, and also it requires a lot of therapeutics or pharmaceutical products. Sinopharm has made every effort to satisfy the need, and we believe that this is because we work under the strong leadership of the central government, in particular the MIIT. And second, we have made a preparedness plan in advance. In February, we accomplished the self-check, and we got ready for the pandemic response. January the 22nd, we set up a headquarters to mobilize the resources and the efforts in our system. And secondly, we have already accumulated a lot of helpful experience, and we now enjoy a highly efficient and effective emergency response system. Since the founding of New China, Sinopharm has been actively engaged in the pandemic or outbreak response. We've already responded to more than 70 outbreaks, and we had our own system well tested and with great expertise in this aspect. Also, we now enjoy outlets and distribution centers in every province or municipality. Also, we have more than 500 prefecture-level storage warehouses and distribution centers to have a sound distribution system. Okay, let's continue on the left. On the front row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. With Economic Daily, my question is, since the outbreak, what are the measures adopted by MIIT to facilitate the work resumption in the medical sector, the medical supplies production sector? We will have Madam Cao Xuejun to take your question. Thank you for your question. Drugs are important supplies for pandemic response. Drugs are used clinically to reduce the number of cases. MIIT has prioritized the drug supply. We have strengthened the monitoring of drug production and facilitated the work resumption in the pharmaceutical companies. We urge the companies to optimize their production. We've done mainly 3 efforts. First, we conducted monitoring and overseeing. Immediately after the outbreak, we set up a distribution platform for medical supplies important as the drugs, which are very important. We now expand the oversight from 15 varieties to more than 70. Now we find that the products are in normal production, and the majority of them can be adequately provided. And the second, we push forward the R&D of the therapeutics. Once the drugs are included in the technical guidelines, their provision is guaranteed. For drugs such as favipiravir, hydrochloroquine, their production have been recovered. Up to now, the daily production capacity for oxychloroquine has exceeded the normal production. For favipiravir, for example, the daily capacity is 11,500 person times per day. And also for all the TCM preparations that are included in the treatment guideline, the production is already at its full capacity. Up to now, for Lianhua Qingwen capsule, the daily capacity has reached 2 million boxes, and we have 30 million boxes in the warehouses. And for the next step, we are going to strengthen the deployment of the production capacity, address the outstanding bottlenecks, and ensure the adequate supply of the drugs. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the second row, the third lady reporter, please. Thank you. With CRI, now we can see the global need for ventilators is rising all the time. Previously, MIIT says that China has provided more than 17 million ventilators to other countries. How about the latest development? Okay, we will have DG Chen to take your question. For ventilators, they are used to control and facilitate the respiration of the patients. There can be two kinds, invasive and non-invasive. For invasive ventilators, they are used for severe cases. The relevant producers are working around the clock to provide the products. We've already provided more than 29,000 ventilators to the whole country and about 18,000 ventilators to Hubei province in particular. As for the overseas provision, according to our data, we've already provided 18,000 ventilators to other countries, and the number is rising quite rapidly these days. And for invasive ventilators, we've already provided more than 4,000 to the international community. Now the international community is in great need of such invasive ventilators because of the fast spread of the pandemic. So we are making every effort to help the relevant producers to address the production bottlenecks. Recently, we have coordinated among the 6 provinces engaged in the invasive ventilator production, helping them to fund the spare parts to ensure the production and also the quality.
Domestic ventilator manufacturers have been working around the clock to support international efforts. We've also been communicating with international purchasers. Down the road, we will collaborate with other departments and support manufacturers to leverage domestic and international resources focused on the supply of key components so as to steadily improve production, urge enterprises to enhance quality management so as to contribute to the international efforts of COVID-19 response. International community should have a clear, objective, and accurate understanding of China's capacity in manufacturing ventilators, as DG Huang has mentioned. With enough components per week, production of ventilators will be 2,260, less than 1/5 of the world's total. Invasive ventilators are very sophisticated. Clinical review and approval need to go through long cycle. The key components are from domestic and international suppliers. With the pandemic spreading, the supply of key components have been under the weather. So it is not possible to improve the capacity within the short term, and the difficulties will remain even in the long run. Next question, please, journalist from the 4th row on the right side. Thank you. With Yangcheng Evening News, Guangzhou Evening News, we know the focus of our efforts is the prevention of imported cases and prevention of domestic resurgence. So what are the measures adopted by MIIT to support this goal and to support the resumption of business? I'd like to ask DG Huang Linbin to take the question. Thank you for your question. In face of the rapid and accelerating spreading of the pandemic in the world, we are faced with greater pressure. We need to make a balance between domestic needs supply and contribution and support to international efforts. We have carried out efforts in the following aspects. First, we've made a holistic plan to ensure domestic supply. We collaborated with other departments and ministries to learn about the needs for medical supplies and provided strong support to prevention control efforts. Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei province and the Hubei province medical needs must be prioritized. On top of this, we've collaborated with the 12 first points of entry provinces through international flights. Once these 12 first points of entry have been selected, we collaborated with respective provinces to learn about their medical supply needs and to satisfy their needs. Meanwhile, we've further improved our focus on the supply to border provinces, the provinces with moderate risks. And regarding the international support, we've looked at international market needs and organized enterprises to do a better job in manufacturing and export. We have been pursuing at our best, and within our capacity, we have tried to support and help other countries. So Made in China will contribute even more to the global fight against COVID-19. According to the data from the Chinese embassies and the consulates, 100 plus countries and international organizations have asked China for help on protective suits, masks, goggles, infrared temperature monitors, ventilators, and medicines. The State Council has established relevant working mechanism. We'll collaborate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, and the International Cooperation Agency to provide certain supplies. Third, we've organized the businesses and manufacturers to resume their operation in accordance with the central government's deployment. On top of the prevention against domestic resurgence and imported cases, we have a context-specific and tiered approach in business resumption. During this process, guided by competent authorities, we've issued notices and guidelines on prevention control during the business resumption. We continued to guide the full industry chain's resumption of operation. Thank you. Next question, please, journalist from the third row on the right side. Thank you. With China Media Group CCTV, in response to COVID-19, the emergency system for ensuring medical supply has played a vital role. What are the aspects covered by this emergency response system, and which are the areas that further improvement is needed? Okay, I'd like to again ask DG Huang Libin to take the question. Thank you for your question. Previously, I've mentioned that the outbreak of COVID-19 happened concurrently with the Spring Festival break. Most of the enterprises were on their break as well, with employees going back to hometown for the Spring Festival break. So in the initial stage, businesses were under enormous pressure of resumption operation. Besides, the prevention and control efforts have an exaggeration effect on the tens or hundreds of the original needs. So there was a very tight supply. To ensure the supply can be met, and the Joint Agency Task Force Medical Supply Assurance Leading Group was established. The MIIT led the efforts in the following aspects. First, regarding the unrestored supply capacity, we made some emergent allocation of resources preparing the businesses for resumption, and we have won the window of time for these businesses. With the joint efforts of multiple ministries and departments, we emergently initiated our standby system and allocated these medical supplies and medicines to Hubei province. Meanwhile, in response to a sudden surge in medical supply needs, we immediately organized the resumption of business among manufacturers and mobilized relevant manufacturers to shift their production to the production of medical supplies. We've selected almost 80 ministers and department directors to be residence coordinator to deal with the shortfalls and the bottlenecks and impediments during transportation, thus maximizing the supply to ensure the needs are met. Third, we've improved the coordination between central government and provincial governments to improve continuous supply of medical resources. The emergency response system has a warehousing management system and a staffing system. A sudden increase of the manufacturing capacity and the provisional reallocation of resources, better interaction with the frontline provinces to satisfy the needs of the key areas with joint efforts by multiple stakeholders. Within a short span of time, the severe shortages were changed to a tight supply, and then later to the satisfaction of the basic needs. It is fair to say that the storage system or the emergency response system after the outbreak of SARS and avian influenza, Wenchuan earthquake, again, this system have shown important role in the relief. Meanwhile, we've also noticed that the storage system and emergency response system is further improvement. Apart from the storage and the inventory of in-kind medical supplies, we should also have the store in place of the production capacity.
On the other hand, we also find the previous storage system inadequate. So for the next step, to improve the capacity, we are going to work with the relevant agencies to focus on the following three aspects. First, we will continue to prioritize the capacity, stockpiling, and the technology reserves. We will accelerate and expand the input into the key and the core technologies. We will facilitate the development of the platforms and also the technical platform for common or general technologies. For therapeutics, vaccines, testing kits, and high-end protective devices, they will be prioritized for the R&D and the storage. Second, we will optimize the varieties in the warehouses. We will set up a dynamically adjusted category or list of such materials and ensure the efficiency of the storage system. And third, we will make a sound system to expand the scale and increase the input. The medical institutions as well as the social organizations to increase their stockpiling of such key materials or supplies. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the fifth row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. With JKB, we know that in the early days of epidemic response, the medical supply was really constrained. So what are the weaknesses identified, and how can the Sinopharm address the problem and improve its capacity. We will have Mr. Liu to take your question. Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak, together with the MIIT, Sinopharm, including the 150,000 staff, have worked around the clock and made an all-out efforts to ensure the supply of the products. Up to now, we have provided 850 million protective gowns, and including 350 million protective gowns to Hubei. Also, we have procured the anti-epidemic supplies from various countries, and we've signed agreements with 88 countries and distributed more than 100 million protective gowns to the related countries. In the early days of epidemic response, as it was the Spring Festival, there was some shortage concerning the protective gowns, but there was not such a shortage concerning the pharmaceutical products. We have brought into full play our advantages to ensure the adequate supply of the medical supplies and demonstrated our role as a key SOE in this regard. The various institutions in our group have worked out the innovative testing kits and proposed the convalescent plasma therapy. These research findings and innovative products have been recognized by the central government, and also we took the lead in the development of the new drugs against COVID-19. We've already achieved some important milestones. In terms of the production, we have worked around the clock to provide adequate supplies. Among the nationally recommended drugs, there are about 105 drugs, and in our group, 91 of such products can be produced and ensured for supply. Thirdly, in terms of the treatment, we have 64 such treatment facilities in our group, in particular in Hubei province, and our staff across the country have all rushed to Hubei province to provide help. Furthermore, in the newly established hospitals in Hubei province and the healthcare facilities, the Sinopharm has all offered our assistance to our best capacity. Okay, thank you. On the right, on the fifth row, with CNS. Since the outbreak, what are the measures adopted by MIIT to ensure the API producers can resume their production and satisfy the demand? We will have Madam Cao to take the question. Thank you. Thank you for your question. As you know, China is one of the largest API producers in the world. We have about 1,500 producers in China. The 2019 production capacity was more than 3 million tons, and also the API for antibiotics, vitamins, and etc. accounts for over 60% of the global total. In some categories, our proportion is even as high as 80%. During the G20 summit, President Xi Jinping made the commitment again that China will make every effort to ensure the supply of API to the world. Premier Li Keqiang also instructs to ensure the adequate supply of APIs against the COVID-19. In our ministry, we have clearly carefully analyzed the current situation and provided coordination to address the bottlenecks and help the companies to overcome the technical difficulties as well as the bottlenecks in transportation, ensuring the stability of the global supply chain. Nationally, the Q1 production was about the same as last year, and the production was back to normal. Recently affected by the slow transportation recovery, we can see that the API export had been dropped by about 20%. However, for APIs against COVID-19, they were rising. For example, for vitamin C, the annual capacity is about 150,000 tons, over 90% of the global total. And the Q1 production is about the same as last year, and the export is increasing at 10%. And also for the fever drugs, our API accounts for 60% of the global total. On a year-on-year basis, the export volume increased by 20%. For the sulfoside oxychloroquine, the annual production capacity is 1 million tons, and this year's first quarter export has already exceeded that of the whole of the last year. At the moment, we are faced with more pressure in terms of export. So for the next step, we will strengthen coordination with WHO, the MNL multinational companies, and the related government agencies to ensure the supply in both the domestic and international markets. Due to the time constraint, last question, please. On the right, on the fifth row, the gentleman reporter, please.
谢谢，我是来。
Thank you. With the China Electronics News, in the assurance of medical supplies, MIIT has been an information platform. How did that role come into play? I'd like to ask DG Huang Libin to take the question. Thank you for your question. In the efforts of ensuring medical supplies, we've organized the establishment of a medical supply allocation platform for the collection, statistics, and analysis, monitoring, and reallocation and allocation of medical supplies, and the production capacity analysis of manufacturers to coordinate efforts online and offline, so as to provide better understanding and monitoring of the key medical supply manufacturing. February the 1st, Premier Li Keqiang made a field visit to see the actual running of this information platform. As of April the 1st, the information platform covers 9 major categories, 110 classes, and has included the information from 2,100 plus manufacturers. With covers almost all manufacturers who are capable of producing key medical supplies, such as protective suits. We have categorized more dynamic monitoring of the turnover of these medical supplies, thus providing information for decision making. Down the road, we'll continue to strengthen the function development of the platform, promote its utilization, optimize the balance in supply, leverage big data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and other information technology to integrate resources from multiple stakeholders so that the information collection, analysis, and the decision-making supportive functions of the information platform can come into shape. We'll focus on the application scenarios, have a classified catalog with the name list of the manufacturers, regularly conduct upstream, downstream production capacity survey, promote the key medical supply information sharing, so that it will be concentrated and smart management. Thank you. I'd like to thank the guest speakers for taking questions and sharing information on China's efforts in assuring medical supplies. Tomorrow we will focus on the stabilization and expansion of automobile consumption. We will have officials from NDRC, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Environmental Protection, and Ministry of Commerce to take questions from the media. We'll look forward to your continuous attention. We conclude today's press conference. Thank you.